The first sound wasn't a bang. It was a metallic click-clack, short, sharp, mechanical, a sound so distinct that men froze when they heard it. Mud, fog, barbed wire. Somewhere in the trench line in the dark, that sound meant only one thing. The Americans were close, and whatever happened next would be fast, very fast, by the time you heard the blast. It was already over. In 1918, soldiers from Germany formally protested a weapon used by United States troops. Not artillery, not gas, not machine guns, a shotgun, a farm gun. Something you'd expect to see leaning against a barn door. They tried to have it banned as illegal under the laws of war. Think about that for a second. Machine guns that chewed through battalions. Fine. Artillery that buried men alive. Acceptable. But a shotgun that crossed the line, which raises a strange question. What did the Americans know that everyone else didn't? And why did a simple pump action scare an entire army? To understand that fear, you have to step into the trenches. Not the clean museum version, the real one, water up to your ankles, rats chewing through food bags, bodies you can't retrieve because the snipers are watching. Most fights didn't happen at 300 yards. They happened at 10 feet, sometimes 3, sometimes face to face. World War I battlefields weren't open plains. They were mazes. Twisting trenches, dugouts, tunnels. Corners you couldn't see around. Rifles were long, awkward. Slow to cycle in tight spaces. Bolt back, push forward, aim, fire. Do that while someone jumps into your trench. You don't get a second shot. So the Americans brought something different, something ugly, something designed for rooms, not fields. The Model 1897, built by Winchester Repeating Arms Company, designed by John Browning, originally meant for hunters and sheriffs, now headed to France. It looked almost crude, wood stock, short barrel, heat shield, bayonet lug. But inside, it held 5 12-gauge shells, and it didn't fire one bullet. It fired a cloud, 9 .33 caliber pellets per shot. 9 chances to hit something vital, at trench distance that wasn't spread. It was certainty, and the real trick wasn't the pellets, it was the pump. You didn't need to line up perfect sights. You pointed, fired, then pumped, clack, fired again. If you held the trigger down and just worked the pump, the gun would slam fire, 1 shot per stroke. As fast as you could move your arm. No reset, no pause. Bang clack, bang clack, bang clack. 5 rounds gone in about 2 seconds. 45 pieces of lead tearing through a trench. Imagine being on the other end of that. A bolt-action rifle gives you precision. A shotgun gives you forgiveness. You don't have to be calm. You don't have to aim perfectly. You just have to be there first, which in trench fighting is everything. The Americans organized special units around this, trench gun squads. A couple of shotgunners, a few men with pistols, grenades, knives. They'd clear dugouts the way police clear buildings today. Open the door, throw a grenade, rush in, 1 blast, pump, next target. No elegance, no long firefights, just brutal math. At 10 feet, 9 pellets hit like 9 pistol bullets at once. The effect wasn't just lethal, it was psychological. Other weapons kill you. This one erased you. Reports from the time describe enemies dropping instantly, sometimes multiple men with 1 shot. In a narrow trench, pellets ricocheted, wood splintered, mud sprayed. There was nowhere safe to stand, and then there was the sound, that pump action. It echoed through tunnels. It announced itself. Machine guns are distant thunder. The trench gun was right behind you. Soldiers began recognizing it the way you recognize a rattlesnake. Too late. By late 1918, German officers weren't just complaining. They filed a diplomatic protest. They claimed the shotgun caused unnecessary suffering. They said it violated international law. They demanded it be banned, which is rich, considering this was the same war that introduced chlorine gas and flamethrowers. But the complaint tells you something important. It wasn't morality. It was effectiveness. The shotgun worked too well. American troops reportedly captured prisoners who specifically asked not to be shot with it. Some accounts say German soldiers threatened to execute any American caught carrying one. Not because it was illegal, because they hated it. It felt unfair. That's the irony. The trench gun wasn't high-tech. It wasn't revolutionary engineering. It was hardware store technology. Simple, reliable, cheap. While Europe built complex machine guns and heavy artillery systems, the Americans showed up with what was basically a riot gun and dominated close quarters. Sometimes the scariest innovations aren't new, they're obvious. The uncomfortable math is simple. A standard infantryman might fire 15 aimed rifle shots in a minute. A shotgunner could unleash 40 or 50 projectiles in seconds. Accuracy becomes irrelevant when probability does the work. You don't need skill, you need volume. It turns war into statistics, and statistics always win. But here's where the myth gets interesting. Because if you look at the numbers, trench guns weren't everywhere. They didn't replace rifles. They were niche tools, specialized, limited. Most American troops still carried standard rifles. The shotgun wasn't a war winner. It was a problem solver, like a crowbar. You don't use it all day. But when you need it, nothing else works, which actually made it scarier. Because it appeared at the worst possible moments: raids, night attacks, tunnel clearing, moments already soaked in panic. So the weapon gained a reputation bigger than its actual footprint. Stories spread faster than facts. You hear the pump, you're dead, maybe exaggerated, maybe not. Fear doesn't need precision. It just needs a good story. And soldiers tell stories. Lots of them, especially about the things that nearly killed them. After the war, the shotgun never disappeared. It kept showing up: jungle fighting, urban combat, prisons, police, every environment where distances shrink and reaction time matters more. Then marksmanship, the same logic kept repeating: close space changes the rules, long-range elegance stops mattering, raw, brutal efficiency takes over. It's almost funny in a dark way. The most industrialized war in human history. Zeppelins, tanks, chemical weapons, massive artillery, and one of the most feared tools was something your grandfather might use to hunt ducks. No computer, no optics, just wood and steel. Sometimes progress loops back on itself. But the bigger lesson isn't about the shotgun. It's about how war really works. We like to imagine conflicts are decided by grand strategy and cutting-edge technology. Sometimes they are. But often, it's small adaptations, tiny changes at the margins, one unit with the right tool in the right environment, a weapon built for the problem, not for prestige. That's what actually shifts outcomes. And those tools don't look heroic, they look practical, almost boring, until you're the one facing them. So when Germany tried to ban the shotgun, it wasn't outrage, it was recognition. They understood something dangerous. The Americans had found a shortcut through the trench stalemate. Not with brilliance, not with innovation, but with ruthless simplicity. Point, fire, pump, move. There's something unsettling about that, because it suggests that sometimes the most effective solutions aren't the most advanced. They're the most direct, the least complicated, the least humane feeling, and that's probably why the protest failed, because you can't outlaw simplicity. You can't ban physics at close range, lead wins. It always has, it always will, which makes you wonder if a century later we're still using the same basic tool for the same kind of fighting. If a farm gun from 1897 still solves modern combat problems, how much of warfare is actually progress and how much of it is just us rediscovering the same brutal answers over and over again?